Catherine Sterling's hand hovered over a box of cereal in the grocery store's crowded aisle when a small tug at her jacket stopped her cold. "Mummy," a tiny voice said, clear and certain. The word pierced through years of carefully constructed walls, shattering her composure. She turned, her coffee cup trembling in her grip, to find a 6-year-old girl with deep brown eyes and pigtails staring up at her with unshakable trust. Catherine's breath caught, her vision blurring as memories surged. Another small voice. Another time someone had called her that sacred name, Emma. A man rushed over, scooping the child into his arms. "I'm so sorry. She's been doing this lately, calling women." He stopped mid-sentence, noticing Catherine's ashen face and shaking hands. "Are you okay?" Catherine stood frozen, unable to form words. The little girl, Emma, continued to watch her with that same unwavering certainty, as if she knew something Catherine didn't. The moment stretched, heavy with unspoken truths, until the man Daniel, she'd later learn, offered an apologetic smile and carried Emma away. But the word mummy lingered, echoing in Catherine's mind like a ghost from a life she'd buried. Daniel Martinez never considered himself unlucky, but life hadn't exactly rolled out the red carpet for him either. At 32, he was a single father to Emma, a role he'd never imagined taking on. His days revolved around his job at Murphy's garage, where he turned wrenches with hands more suited for machinery than braiding his daughter's silky brown hair. Mornings were a rush of mismatched socks, cereal spills, and clumsy attempts at pigtails before dropping Emma at school. Evenings were spent picking her up from after-school care at 5:30, cooking simple meals, and answering her endless questions. "Daddy, why don't I have a mummy like the other kids?" Emma asked at least twice a week, usually over dinner at their small kitchen table. She'd developed a habit of setting 3 places instead of 2, leaving the third chair empty, as if waiting for someone to claim it. "Some families are just different, sweetheart," Daniel would say, his voice steady but his heart aching. It was the same answer he'd given since she was old enough to notice, but it never felt like enough. That truth was messier. Emma had come to him through the foster system at barely 2 years old, a quiet child who'd already learned to expect disappointment from the world. She'd been through 3 homes before landing with Daniel, each one leaving her a little more guarded. He'd adopted her officially on her 4th birthday, and she'd become his entire world. He worked extra shifts to save for her future, learned to cook her favorite macaroni and cheese, and read bedtime stories with a different voice for each character. But he couldn't give her what she wanted, most a mother's love. Emma's longing was evident in small, heartbreaking ways. She lingered at school pickup, watching other kids run to their mothers. She clung to female teachers or kind strangers at the grocery store, soaking up any scrap of maternal warmth. Her bedroom was filled with crayon drawings of stick families, always 3 people, a tall figure labeled Daddy, a smaller one labeled Emma, and a third, carefully colored, labeled Mummy. When Daniel asked about this mysterious mother, Emma would shrug and say, "She's coming, Daddy. I just haven't found her yet." Across the city, Catherine Sterling's life gleamed with the polish of success. Her corner office on the 40th floor of a glass tower overlooked the downtown skyline. Her penthouse apartment, featured in architectural magazines, was a masterpiece of minimalism, sleek lines, neutral tones, no clutter. She drove a car that turned heads and wore tailored suits that cost more than most people's rent, but beneath the veneer her life was hollow. Perfection, she'd learned, was just another word for emptiness. Catherine's days began at 5:30 a.m. with a shrill alarm she never ignored. Coffee was black, breakfast was non-existent, and emotions were locked away. As neatly as her filing system, she'd built Sterling and Associates from nothing, transforming it into one of the state's top marketing firms. Her colleagues admired her precision, her clients trusted her vision. None of them knew about the locked drawer in her desk, where a pair of tiny pink shoes and a hospital bracelet lay hidden, relics of a life she couldn't bear to revisit. Catherine had mastered avoidance. She steered clear of toy aisles, crossed streets to avoid playgrounds, and declined invitations to baby showers or children's birthday parties. When colleagues brought their kids to office events, she buried herself in work. The world was littered with reminders of what she'd lost, and she'd spent 6 years navigating around them. Her penthouse was a fortress of solitude, no family photos, no bright colors, no signs of life beyond her own. The only exception was a small room at the end of the hall, locked and untouched, where a crib with pink bedding, a mobile of dancing elephants, and a rocking chair stood frozen in time. 6 years ago, Catherine had been a different woman, one who believed in happy endings and forever families. That woman had died on a February night when her 3-year-old daughter, Lily, took her last breath in a hospital room that reeked of antiseptic and despair. Lily had been born premature, spending her first months fighting for survival in the NICU. Catherine had lived at the hospital, learning to read monitors and decipher medical jargon no parent should know. When they finally brought Lily home, Catherine thought the worst was behind them. She'd filled the nursery with soft pastels, read every parenting book, and captured every milestone in photos and videos. Lily was a miracle, walking early, talking early, filling their home with laughter and love so fierce it made everything else seem small. But Lily's heart, weakened from birth, couldn't keep up. The night she died, Catherine had been working late, trusting a reliable babysitter to watch her daughter. The call came at 10:30 p.m. Lily had a high fever, wasn't responding. An ambulance was on its way. Catherine drove through empty streets, her hands shaking, telling herself it would be okay. It had to be okay. But it wasn't. She held Lily's hand as the monitors flatlined, whispering promises and apologies into the silence. She blamed herself for working late, for not being there, for not sensing the danger. The aftermath was a blur of funeral plans and hollow condolences. Catherine sold their house, donated Lily's clothes, and moved into the penthouse, where nothing could remind her of her loss. She threw herself into work, building walls around her heart to keep the pain out, but those walls only trapped it inside, a constant ache she'd learned to live with. 3 days after the grocery store encounter, Catherine found herself at Riverside Park, laptop open on a bench, staring blankly at quarterly projections. She told herself she was there for fresh air, but deep down, she knew better. Emma's face, those trusting brown eyes, had haunted her. The way she'd said mummy with such certainty stirred something Catherine had long suppressed. "Excuse me, are you the nice lady from the store?" Catherine looked up to find Emma standing there, clutching a dandelion plucked from the grass. Her gap-toothed grin was infectious. Daniel trailed a few steps behind, looking sheepish. "Emma, we shouldn't bother her," he said, but Catherine surprised them both by closing her laptop. "It's okay," she said, her voice softer than she intended. "What's your name?" "Emma Halsey Martinis," the girl announced, puffing out her chest. "I'm 6 years old, and I lost my front tooth yesterday, see?" She opened her mouth wide, showing off the gap. "Daddy says the tooth fairy's coming, but I think she's busy with other kids." Catherine smiled, a rare warmth spreading through her. "The tooth fairy's very busy this time of year," she said solemnly, "but I'm sure she remember you." Emma plopped onto the bench beside her, uninvited but perfectly at ease. "Are you sad?" she asked with a child's bluntness. "You look like you might be sad, Emma," Daniel warned, but Catherine raised a hand. "Sometimes I am sad," she admitted, the words slipping out before she could stop them. "But right now, I'm not." And it was true. For the first time in years, sitting with this bold, curious girl, Catherine felt something other than grief. She felt alive. Emma jumped up. "Wanna see me do a cartwheel?" Before Catherine could answer, she was tumbling across the grass, legs flailing, landing in a heap. "That was beautiful," Catherine said, and she meant it. Over the next few weeks, Catherine found herself at the park more often. Always at the same time, Emma and Daniel arrived. She told herself it was coincidence, but she knew better. Emma's invitations to push her on the swings or watch her chase butterflies became impossible to resist. Conversations with Daniel flowed easily about his job at the garage, his 8 years there since aging out of foster care, and his unexpected journey into fatherhood. "She was so tiny when I met her," Daniel said one afternoon, watching Emma climb the monkey bars. 3 homes by age 2. "She was so quiet, so scared, but something about her. I knew I had to protect her." Catherine shared fragments of her own story, her company, the long hours, the pressure, carefully omitting the locked room in her apartment and the daughter she'd lost. Emma, meanwhile, seemed to have decided Catherine was hers. She brought her drawings of stick figure families, dandelions, and smooth rocks she'd found. Her questions were endless. Why was the sky blue? Did angels exist? Where did babies come from? "You're really smart," Emma declared one day, sitting cross-legged beside Catherine's bench. "Are you a teacher?" "I help companies tell people about their products," Catherine explained. Emma tilted her head. "Like when Daddy says vegetables are good for me." "Something like that," Catherine laughed. Then Emma's expression turned serious. "Do you have kids?" The question hit like a punch. "No," Catherine said quietly. "I don't have children." Emma reached out, patting Catherine's hand with her small one. "That's okay. You can share me if you want. I have enough love for lots of people." Catherine's penthouse, once a sanctuary of control, felt different lately. She caught herself rearranging furniture, buying an extra coffee in the morning, forgetting she lived alone. On a business trip, she'd impulsively bought a stuffed elephant, telling herself it was for her assistant's daughter, but it sat on her coffee table, unclaimed. She found herself lingering outside the locked nursery door, pressing her palm against the wood, remembering Lily's babbling laughter. Lily had been her miracle, a fighter from the start. Those early months in the NICU had been a crash course in fear and hope. When they brought her home, Catherine had believed they'd won. She'd documented every moment, first steps, first words, first giggles. But that night, working late, she'd missed the signs. The babysitter's panicked call, the race to the hospital, the monitors falling silent, it all played on a loop in her mind. She'd blamed herself, convinced she could have saved Lily if she'd been there. Now Emma's presence stirred something new. Catherine thought of her laugh, her insistence on holding hands by the duck pond, the way she saw the world as a place of possibility. She thought of Daniel's quiet strength, his love for Emma, his tired eyes that carried the weight of a life he hadn't planned. The turning point came on a crisp October afternoon. Catherine left the office early, a rarity, and spotted Emma and Daniel at a coffee shop across the street. Emma sat at a table, tongue poking out as she colored with fierce concentration. Daniel was at the counter, ordering. Catherine crossed the street without thinking, drawn to Emma's focused expression. "That's beautiful," she said, sliding into the chair across from her. Emma's face lit up. "Catherine, look, I drew you a picture." She turned the paper around, and Catherine's heart stopped. 3 stick figures held hands under a rainbow, a tall figure with yellow hair labeled Catherine, a middle figure labeled Daddy, and a small one with pigtails labeled Emma. But a 4th figure hovered above them, with wings, labeled for Lily. "Who's Lily?" Catherine whispered, her hands trembling. Emma shrugged. "She came in a dream. She said she was your little girl and wanted you to be happy again. She said I should take care of you because you're sad about missing her." Tears Catherine had held back for 6 years spilled over. She'd never mentioned Lily to Emma, never spoken her name in her presence. Yet this extraordinary child had known. Daniel returned with drinks, saw Catherine's tear-streaked face, and sent Emma to wash her hands. "She's been dreaming about a girl named Lily for weeks," he said softly. "Said she needed to find Lily's mummy and make her smile. I didn't understand until now." Catherine's voice broke. "I had a daughter. Her name was Lily. She died when she was 3. I've been running from it ever since." Daniel took her hand. "I'm sorry, I can't imagine." "Emma reminds me of her," Catherine said. "Not in looks, but in how she sees the world, like love is everywhere, waiting to be found." When Emma returned, she climbed into Catherine's lap, wrapping her arms around her neck. "Are you sad about Lily?" "Yes," Catherine admitted. "I miss her very much." "That's okay," Emma said. "Missing people means you love them, but Lily doesn't want you to be sad forever. She wants you to love me, too." Catherine held her close, breathing in her strawberry shampoo, feeling her heart shift. For the first time since Lily's death, she believed she could love again without betraying her daughter's memory. But fear was a stubborn foe. Over the next few days, Catherine withdrew, making excuses to avoid the park. She told herself she was protecting her heart. Emma wasn't her daughter. Daniel wasn't her partner. What if Daniel met someone else? What if Emma outgrew her need for a mother? What if she loved them and lost them, like Lily? She buried herself in work, scheduling meetings from dawn to midnight, avoiding the park, ignoring Daniel's texts. But this time, avoidance felt like a choice, and it hurt more than she expected. She'd learned to live without Lily because she had no other option. Choosing to live without Emma and Daniel felt like a betrayal of something precious. Daniel noticed her absence immediately. Emma asked about Catherine constantly, wondering if she was sick or on a trip. "Did I do something wrong?" she asked. One night over dinner, "Maybe I shouldn't have drawn that picture of Lily. Maybe Catherine doesn't like me anymore." "Catherine likes you very much," Daniel assured her. "Sometimes grown-ups need time to figure things out." But he was struggling to. He'd begun to imagine a future with Catherine, to believe Emma's instincts about finding a mother were right. Her absence left a void, a reminder of how naturally she'd fit into their lives. Emma grew quieter, more withdrawn, like the scared toddler she'd once been. One evening, Daniel found her by her bedroom window, staring at the street. "Are you watching for Catherine?" he asked. She nodded. "Lily said Catherine would be my mummy, but maybe Lily was wrong. Maybe I'm not supposed to have a mummy." Daniel's heart broke. He wanted to fight for Emma's happiness, but he knew he couldn't force Catherine to stay. Emma's 7th birthday approached, and Daniel planned a small party at the park where they'd met Catherine. He invited her classmates, ordered a butterfly-themed cake, and wrapped gifts he'd saved for months to buy. But Emma's excitement was muted. She sent invitations without her usual enthusiasm, chose a party dress without joy. Daniel knew she was hoping Catherine would appear, despite their weeks of silence. The morning of the party, Emma climbed into his bed. "Daddy, do you think Catherine remembers it's my birthday?" "I think she cares about you very much," he said carefully. "But sometimes people show it in different ways." "I miss her," Emma whispered. "Like I miss Lily, but different. Because I got to know Catherine for real." At the park, Daniel set up streamers and tables while Emma's friends arrived with gifts and laughter. But Emma kept glancing at the parking lot, her hope fading as the afternoon wore on. They'd just sung "Happy Birthday" when Daniel spotted a familiar figure crossing the grass. Catherine stood there, holding a large gift bag, looking uncertain. Emma saw her and shrieked, racing across the park and launching herself into Catherine's arms. "You came," she cried. "I wished for you when I blew out my candles. And you came." Catherine knelt, tears in her eyes. "I'm sorry I stayed away. I was scared, but I realized being scared isn't a reason to hurt people I love." "You love me?" Emma asked. "I love you very much," Catherine said. "And your daddy?" "I'm sorry I made you sad." Emma hugged her tightly. "I knew you'd come back. Lily told me you would." Daniel approached, his emotions raw. "Catherine." I know," she interrupted, taking his hand. "You were protecting Emma, but I'm not going anywhere again. Not unless you want me to." The party blurred into laughter, cake, and games, but Catherine barely noticed. She was too busy watching Emma, memorizing her movements, her laugh, her kindness. She was too busy talking to Daniel, learning his hopes, his fears, his dreams for Emma. As the sun set and guests left, Emma ran over. "Catherine, are you coming home with us?" Catherine looked at Daniel, who nodded. "If your daddy's okay with it, I'd like that very much." Emma's face glowed. "Really? For dinner? And movies and everything?" "Everything," Catherine promised. That night, as Catherine helped Emma brush her teeth and read bedtime stories, she felt Lily's presence not as grief, but as a blessing. "Catherine," Emma said sleepily, "are you going to be my mummy?" "Now, if you want me to be," Catherine whispered. "I do," Emma murmured, eyes closing. "I've been waiting for you my whole life." In the living room, Daniel waited with 2 cups of coffee. They sat in silence, the weight of the day settling around them. "Are you scared?" he asked. "Terrified," Catherine admitted. "Not of loving Emma, but of not being enough." "You're already enough," Daniel said. "You have been since you let a 6-year-old call you mummy." Catherine leaned against him, her heart full. Tomorrow she'd face the challenges balancing work, navigating motherhood, loving a child who wasn't hers by blood but was hers in every way that mattered. But tonight she was home with a man who understood her scars and a girl who saw the world with hope. From Emma's room came a sleepy call. "Mummy." Catherine smiled, knowing she'd answer that call tomorrow, and every day after, as the mother Emma had been waiting for and the mother she'd been waiting to become.